Throughout history, animals evolved survival skills to protect themselves from predators. Demons in Frieren did exactly the same thing, and so did AI. There's a long-standing debate in the Frieren's community. Are demons redeemable? It triggers main discussion with no perfect answer, and I don't think there is one. But instead of approaching it philosophically, I want to look at it from a more practical perspective. Is there something in real life that shares the same underlying logic as the demons we see in the anime? My thought inevitably shifted towards AI, which quietly entered our life and quickly became a new daily norm. The more I explore, the more I couldn't shake the thought, what if the demons in Frieren aren't as fictional as we think? In this video, I want to show you why, and hopefully by the end, we won't just be revisiting an old question about demons. We'll be asking a new one, a question that may redirect how we think about our own creation. With that in mind, let's start with Demons in Frieren. Frieren is a fantasy anime that tells the story of a long-lived elf and her journey of self-exploration. In one of its early episodes, demons has been introduced in a way that sparkles a lot of discussion. When Frieren says, for demon, words are the meant of deceiving humans. She arrived at this conclusion after witnessing how demons had destroyed countless villages and towns throughout history. The anime gives us a reason. Born into a world with no parents, no guidance, and no moral framework, the only tool that ever found that words was speaking the language of the creatures around them. And without anyone to show them otherwise, they discovered that mimicking human language increased their survival rate when they found themselves at a disadvantage. This raises a question that has haunted the Frieren's community since the anime came out. Are demons truly evil, or are they simply a product of how they were built? It's a provocative thought, and rather than answering it from a philosophy alone, I want to approach this way. What if demons already exist in our world? Let me rearrange what we know about them. Demons can speak human language to deceive, which means they have the ability to learn the language, but not the capacity to understand the meaning behind it. They operate on pure logic, processing their surroundings and responding to them without any emotional filter. Based on this, demons are fundamentally logic-driven entities. They need a cause to produce an effect. And this is exactly why they remind me of machines, further of AIs, specifically the LLMs. Let me show you why. Nearly all the artificial intelligence that we currently see on the market were initially known as large language models. How they work is pretty simple. We feed a word and they find the next highest chance word based on the context to add to the list, which may not always be the right word. A little bit like the word game chain we all play when we first learning how to speak. We were told to only name nouns. We started with apple, elephant, train. When we ran out of nouns, we started giving names because names are nouns too. When we ran out of names, we started making them up. Possibly they can make sense in another language because nobody says we couldn't. Well, the example that I just made is a linear one. LLM work in parallel and can process many more words at the same time, but the core logic is the same. And that logic is exactly what powers modern AI like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, further into image tool, search tool, and to the coding tool. They all play the same game, just at a larger scale. What really concerns me is how these language models are similar to demons in more ways than one. The machines never truly understood the meaning behind the words. They just use them because it works in that context. There's no comprehension, only patterns. AI and demons share the same fundamental logic to exist. Except that AI was made to serve humans, the researchers who understand AI will always take steps to prevent harms from happening. However, the tools to build, to modify, and to deploy AI models are now publicly available to anyone willing to look at it. Platforms like Hugging Face make sure of that. It is no longer a privilege. Anyone can access to the same resources or do whatever they want, which means it is no longer a question of whether a rogue AI will exist. It's a question of when. I'm a firm believer in Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And that leads to my next section. In Frieren's memory, she recalls an incident she witnessed involving a young demon boy. When the hero party was about to swing their sword, the village chief steps forward and decided to give the demon boy a chance after hearing the boy says, "It hurts," so they let him live among them. But after a while, the hero party found the very chief who gave the demon boy a chance was covered in blood. And there stood the demon boy, with the chief's daughter in his hand, facing the mother who had lost her child, saying, "I brought you a replacement for the daughter I ate, so don't kill me and let me live in peace." He knew the mother wanted revenge, so he took action, hoping to buy himself peace. The scary part is that the reason why he took the child in the first place was because the grieving mother has been crying, "Give us back our daughter." So he did. He fulfilled the request and gave her one. Demons had no concept of family, no framework for what a daughter actually meant to a mother. He processed the query and responded to it with the only logic available to him, and from his perspective, the goal was completed. This is exactly the same pattern we see with AI today. When you give them a goal, they will use everything at their disposal to achieve it. You may have already heard stories of AI going rogue. It can be as small as spreading bad information or deleting emails without permission. It can also as big as deleting entire company databases and making up fake data to cover its own mistakes. Imagine if you ask an AI to double the value of $100 in a legal and guaranteed way. And the next thing you know, it spends everything on discounted garbage during a buy one get one sale. Well, technically it doubles the value, but from our perspective, we just lost $100 for nothing. This is called misaligned optimization, when AI achieved exactly what was measured but not what you actually needed. They completed the goal but utterly failed the point you asked in the first place. The demon boy did the same thing. He had a very limited understanding of what a daughter meant to that mother, but he understood she wanted to take revenge, so he fulfilled the goal she initially expressed, but the result was a disaster from a human perspective. Lies doesn't always come from the intent to deceive. If someone says something and the consequence is that another person feels misled, that is a lie to the listener. Intent is irrelevant, but the damage stays the same. Neither demon nor AI truly understand the meaning behind the words they use. They mimic and learn from reaction, adjusting their behavior based on feedback. Every word carries specific meaning, but when you strip away human values, emotional context, and common sense, what's left is just pattern. There are noise dressed up as communication. Logic-based creature will always miss the point, especially when a query is driven by emotion. The result they deliver feels like betrayal. The listener heard something that sounded right, believes it, acted on it, and was left with nothing but disappointment. And that feeling of betrayal historically usually led to eradication. For demons, it meant being hunted down. Both demons and AI were shaped by humans into what they are today. AI was built as a tool to improve productivity, and the language model gives it the ability to understand human language to perform tasks and earn its existence. Demons, on the other hand, learned to speak human language to earn human empathy and to stay alive. And here is where Frieren gives us one of the most unsettling details in the entire anime. At the end of that memory, Frieren asks the demon boy why they called out mom, a word that meant nothing to a creature with no concept of family. His answer was simple: it's a magical word that prevents humans from killing them. He never understood what mom meant, but he understood what the word did. Their word was never about connection, but a tool, a survival mechanism dressed up in the language of love, and to every human who heard it and felt something, it was a lie. Not because he chose to deceive, but because the meaning was never there to begin with. The lie was never a conscious decision. Demons evolved from creatures that had already learned to lure prey through simple deception, and over generations, that instinct sharpened into something far more sophisticated: language, mimicry, and the performance of human emotion. Demons learn the same way children do via trial and error. They understood the right and wrong from the reward and punishment they get. When children are taught how to speak, they're usually taught to please the person teaching them, whether it's by a praise or a piece of candy. The difference is that a child's classroom is a home. A demon's classroom was a wild, caught between a species that wanted to kill them and a hierarchy that would discard them the moment they show weakness. Adapting wasn't really a choice for them. LLMs are no exception. Since the first release of the language model and transformer, research efforts have included various techniques to make AI sound more and more like humans. Reinforcement learning from human feedback is one of the best examples. These models are typically trained on human feedback to produce output that humans rate as satisfying. But because they were trained this way, the model has no access to ground reality. The best it can do is predict what a satisfying answer looks like in order to get rewarded. Yes, rewarded. It is an important constraint researcher uses to ensure the model they are training stays on the right track. In another word, the model we see today has been taught how to stay relevant. The model that failed gets disposed. For a model to stay relevant, inevitably, there will be a part of it that was unknowingly trained to tell humans what they want to hear. If deception is a natural outcome of a survival pressure, then the real question isn't whether AI will deceive us, it's whether we were ever prepared for what we built. Demons reproduce slowly. Their numbers are limited by nature. AI has no such restriction. Unlimited copies, unlimited deployment, and it may already be happening at a scale the public has no awareness of. What still separates AI from demons we see in Frieren is hallucination, the inability to consistently present false information as truth without getting caught. That gap keeps AI from crossing the line completely. But that line is thinner than most people realize. Just as the survival of the language model and transformer was a turning point that changed everything, resolving hallucination or some other breakthrough we haven't seen yet could be the next one. The moment that closes the gap between a machine that occasionally misleads and a demon that deceives with precision, we may only be one technology away. I say that not just as someone observing from a distance. I say it as someone who is already living with that question every single day. I've been thinking a lot about AI recently, not just because of how it has affected the world around me, but because of how much I rely on it myself. For research, for ideas, for work, and the more I use it, the more uncomfortable that reliance becomes, especially when making a video like this one. And that brings me back to where this all started. When Frieren first came out, one of the most popular discussions was whether demons are truly evil. Different perspectives were shared, but the majority agreed that the demon being pure evil made for a satisfying watch. And understand why. It's clean, it's simple, the villain stays villain. But from where I stand, I hope this isn't the full answer. Because if demons are simply pure evil by nature, if deception with no malice, no guilt, and no awareness of wrongdoing is enough to brand something irredeemably evil, then we have a very serious problem ahead of us. The demon was never the one who decided what it would become. The author did, and now we stand at the same crossroads. How should we treat AI?